All right, hey everybody, TG here. Let's see if we got everything up and running. And Ghassan, good to see you. Yep, welcome to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see, on Monday I did a market update about what I think is going on out there and what we can be seeing and what to be expecting going forward for the next little while. So if you guys are interested, we're going to be posting a link in the chat box here about that. So we have the replay, and if you want to check it out, see what's going on there. And then, yeah, profitpilot.com is where you can find more information about me and the newsletter, all that other kind of good stuff. All right, so let's come over here and take a look at the S&P. We've had a fairly good bounce, but I think we should be coming into the end of the bounce because if you guys are familiar with my typical patterns, that's what we're seeing. So, kind of like right here, we had that bounce up into the arch of the foot. And right here, I'm viewing this as the bounce up into the arch of the foot. And then on the hourly chart, I threw some Fibonacci's on here from the high to the low. And that's where we get here is the 50% retracement and the 618 retracement. And we are right smack in the middle of it. So that seems like a pretty good area for price to slow down. And then also we are just really, really high from the hourly 50. So there's a gap there. I would be expecting price to at least come back down to the hourly 50. We're gonna have to see if it goes lower after that. Teresa, good to see you. And then, yeah, so I'm just kind of looking at this, waiting for price to run out of steam. It might still take a few more days, but ultimately, I think this is about the peak of the bounce. And that's what I'm looking at. The names that I've been trading short, they're all down today. So market up, those names are down. I think they're kind of indicating that this upside is running out. And so any name that was going to move up had its opportunity to move up is how I'm seeing it. And so we should be seeing this stuff start to move back down in that way. Then let's go over to Nasdaq. It looks very similar. It had a bit of a more of an up move because I'll get to Google in a moment, but it's looking very, very similar to the S&P. So big bounce. Looks like it's kind of starting to run out of some steam. Give it some time, but I do think it's going to roll back over. And then if we look at the IWM, I need to keep putting that someplace else. The IWM, it bounced a little bit. We'll have to see what it wants to do. Does it want to flag? Does it want to just roll over again? But same deal. I kind of think that this bounce is about where it's going to be running into. And we'll have to see if it kind of starts coming down or if it needs to hang out a little bit further before going down. Generally speaking, that's what I'm looking for. Part of the reason is because if we look here on the monthly and weekly timeframes, I think it's just in the middle of nowhere. I know that there's like a 100-day moving average or something that it's running into, but I just, other than that third ATR right there, it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And so I just don't really see a reason as to why the IWM is going to get bullish again in through here. The only thing I'd be looking at are kind of bounces or flags sideways, like bear flags sideways, something to that extent. And so it just, yeah, you can see there's a little bit of a level right there, kind of like a right there. You can see that. But beyond that, there's really not much else holding price up. So I would imagine at some point the IWM is going to continue moving back down, probably to the weekly 200, weekly 50 or monthly 50, something like that. Could go even further. As evidence, Imran, good to see ya. As evidence of how far things can go, and you just need to be prepared, look at PayPal. PayPal just had earnings today or last night, and they're down even further. So something can get oversold. You can see it got really oversold because it got outside of that third ATR. But a little bit of flagging, and it keeps going down. Doesn't even care about the weekly 200, doesn't even care about the monthly 50, all right? So it's possible. Just because something is so oversold does not mean it's necessarily going to bounce. So if we come over here and we look on, say, the daily and hourly, you could be looking at this, be like, oh, really oversold. And oh, yeah, there was a bounce. But you know what? Those bounces can get sold into. And just because it's oversold doesn't mean it has to bounce. It can also really try to be careful about thinking you're going to catch a short squeeze or something like that. It's possible they're out there, but we also need to keep in mind that sometimes when dead money's dead, it's just going to go sideways and do nothing until it goes lower. So be sure that you're looking at the correct situation and look at the right time frames and make sure you understand the whole context of what you're trying to trade and tackle. let's see, there we go. That's the one I'm looking for. And then let's talk about, so Google had earnings and they jumped up. I think mostly what they jumped up on was the fact that they are advertising, they're saying that they're going to do a 20-to-1 stock split, I think in June. And so that basically makes a $3,000 stock $150, which is pretty nice. So I would imagine at some point Google should go up, but that is their stock split may not be strong enough to overpower the overall direction of the market. So I personally am going to hold off on anything like this for a while, but I would imagine that yes, there should be a good run up to that stock split at some point. So we'll have to just give it enough time. And then AMD was another one that had earnings up in here. And I'm viewing this as basically a bounce in a downtrend. And if you guys were sharp, like this, I put an X here last night. That's where it was in the overnight. And if you guys know my patterns as far as the elf shoe situation, the daily chart, that is exactly the arch of the foot. So if you guys are short-term traders or you're trading on the lower time frames, that would have been a great opportunity to come in there and short it for a little bit, because based on my patterns, we know that price is eventually going to come back down here and have to retest the low area. Now, what we don't know is if it's going to hold and it moves up, or if it's just going to hang out and then go lower. So we don't know that much, but what I can tell you is, generally speaking, from here, it's going to move lower until it can ever try to go higher. And so that's why something like that, if you're familiar with the patterns, then you can grab it and you can say, yeah, that was a pretty easy short. That was a gap up short. So good opportunities around there to be nabbing those kind of things. Also on the hourly chart, part of the reason that tells me that this is going to be a short, very, very similar to the SPY and to the Nasdaq, we have price over a downtrending hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator is still below zero. So, pay attention to something like that. If you have the Moxie indicator, what is price doing over the 50 with the indicator still below zero? That is not a proper setup. It's a false long. In fact, it's probably going to be a good short because it'll fade back down to at least the hourly 50, and then you'll have to kind of see where it goes from there. Then Apple, I've been looking at this as well as an inverse trampoline move. So originally this was an inverse trampoline move, but yes, the hourly Moxie indicator has made it over zero, but that is what I call the tail wagging the dog. So in this case, price was pulling the indicator up. There was no divergence. There wasn't a setup. Price just bounced because it was oversold, and it yanked the indicator up over zero. The indicator did not set things up with divergence and all that other stuff and crossing over zero. The indicator isn't what helped push price. It was price that pulled the indicator. So that's like the tail wagging the dog. And so this firing right there is not accurate. That is that's misleading. So again, I would also look at Apple coming back down or returning at some point, and I would be also looking at this as the arch of the foot. I think that's going to be about the peak of something, and I would look for price to start fading. I don't know how drastically Apple's going to go down. I mean, it might just chop for a while in a range, but I think that generally speaking, this is probably going to be about the peak of wherever this bounce is for Apple. And it looks that way. You can kind of see on the hourly chart that price looks like it's just stalling out a little bit. So we got those. Julio, let's see. Could you explain how the inverse trampoline is still in play even though Moxie has crossed above zero? Well, there you go. I was just talking about that. So what it is as the tail wagging the dog. Technically, this is not going to be an inverse trampoline move. Like here was exactly an inverse trampoline move. But what this is this is an improper setup, because not only do you have the 50-250 maneuver going on, you have the Moxie indicator firing very, very late. You want the Moxie indicator to fire down here when price is just starting to cross the moving average to help show you that it's going to be working out. The fact that it's firing up here, basically at the peak of the move, tells you that this is just price yanking the Moxie indicator around as far as momentum goes. So I would be looking for price to pull back from here. Now the question is it going to pull back into strength, or does it not? Or is it not going to be strength and it's just going to keep going down? But what I can tell you is this is probably going to be about the peak of that bounce, and we'll have to then figure out where it goes after that. So, Ambus, appreciate your videos. Thank you. And let's see, your review for retail such as BBY reversal short. Let's see. BBBY. Oh yeah, a buddy and I were talking about this. He was actually talking about this for a bounce to the upside. I was a little bit concerned. I think on the lower time frames there was, because you can see there's your double bottom, there's your positive divergence, and it did have a trampoline move. So price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0 is a trampoline move. So that was the setup there. And then you confirmed it again with another trampoline move. Price below the 50, the Moxie indicator still above 0. So near term, there was some moves up here. And you can see that there was an elf shoe. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. There's your elf toe. So in through there, and then we can also see double bottom, positive divergence. We got that. And then if you look on the weekly time frame, there's a giant elf shoe. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot. Now we're looking for that elf toe, assuming this works. So I just want you to know, Amvis, that a double bottom only works when it works. Otherwise, it's a resting area until price goes lower. So do keep that in mind, even though right, oops, get this worked out there. Even though you're seeing price move up like this, and even though this is a double bottom and it's starting to work, you do need to always keep in mind that there's a lot of fighting going back and forth here. There's a lot of back and forth trying to see, is this previous low going to hold? They're looking back, they're trying to say, all right, it bounced once and we're here again. Is this going to hold or is this going to fold? And if it works, then it works. All the signs are saying, cool, it's working. But you have to remember, what if all this battling back and forth right here does not work and price does eventually roll back over and it fails the double bottom? A failure of the double bottom means that there wasn't strength and price is just going to let go and go down. So, you can trade it to the long side for now, but do keep in mind, you're kind of dealing with some conflicting things. You have a downtrending daily 50 that price is trying to bounce up into. And really on the weekly chart, other than this potential double bottom, I mean, it's not guaranteed yet. It's not set yet. The biggest thing I would say is I would prefer to see the daily 50 in an uptrend. And I'd prefer to see like this. I'd prefer to see price going with the uptrending daily 50. I don't like seeing price trying to go up across a downtrending moving average. So if you are trying to trade this long, beware. If it does not hold up, do not hang on to it. Make sure you have your stop loss in order, or at least your get out point, because if this thing starts to roll over again and break, so just keep that in mind, because if the market does roll over, this may not hang up. This may not hold up despite that double bottom that we're looking at. So remember, double bottoms only work when they work. Otherwise, they're resting areas until price goes lower. Okay, what is my opinion? Yeah, GDX. So Venus Trader, yeah, what is my opinion on GDX? Well, we were trading it for a while. I think it was like right in here, like right about in here that we were trading it. I saw price down, Moxie indicator up, and there was a trampoline move here on the daily, and I was looking at a double bottom right there and into the weekly 200. There were a lot of reasons I was looking at this. And then it kept kind of going back and forth, and you could see even here it held up a little bit, and then it looked like it wanted to go again. And even here, getting over the daily 50 and the Moxie indicator was above 0. Like, man, no wonder why they call it the Widowmaker. But as far as the precious metals and being the Widowmaker and stuff like that, it's just, it looked like it wanted to go, but then it didn't go. And then it ripped down based on the Fed and the dollar going up. And then, interest rates are going up. So maybe gold is not the place that people want. So yeah, it's totally mixed. I tried it. It didn't work. If we look at GLD specifically, it looked like it was going to go, but then it didn't. And so I'm just out of it until I see something again that's really more convincing. It's literally just chop. So as I said, we tried our shot, didn't work out, got out with a small loss, like whatever. And we got our information though. Now we know it's not working. And even GFI, which I thought was one of the better looking stocks. I mean, look at that weekly chart. Doesn't that look just ready to go? And the daily, I was looking at a trampoline move right there, and we were starting to catch it right in through here. But when it couldn't hold those moving averages, like when it broke that, and when it broke that, I was out. I'm like, this is not going to work. And so at this point, I'm just out of gold. I'm out of precious metals. They don't look like they're working. and I'm just moving away from them. Rob, let's see. As far as UVXY today, I think we need to keep waiting. Let me go down to the lower time frame. I do think they're setting up. I think we're watching the market slow down to the upside, so we should start seeing UVXY turn to the upside, but we're gonna have to wait. We're gonna have to wait for price to get back on top of that 15-minute 50. We're just gonna have to do the typical process in order to watch and see these things turn around. You're gonna have to see the 8 get on top of the 21. You're gonna have to see price get on top of the 15-minute 50. You're gonna have to see the hourly 8 get over the 21. Like, you're just gonna have to see the process. And the next time around this thing sets up, it should be pretty clear, and then we can go and add some more to it. But we're just gonna have to wait for the SPY to start topping out and rolling over, which I think it's in the process of, but it's gonna take a few days. So that's just kind of how it's a big ship. It takes some time to move. Give it a little bit of a longitudinal distance, some time sideways, and then that should help roll things over. Andrew, nice. Let's see. Caught the gap up on AMD. Where can I get back in? Long do you think? Okay, good. So it sounds like you caught the short on AMD. That's great. I was posting that to my subscribers last night, saying, hey, if you guys want to take that opportunity. I'm not much of a day trader, or a short-term trader, mostly because I have obligations like this that kind of get in the way of me trying to do anything and pay attention for the day. So being an end-of-day trader really works for me and for the job. But as far as if you're trying to figure out where you can go in on this next for a long side, you're looking at 117. That's about right here. I don't see any reason that 117 would be. I don't see any reason why 117 would be a place for price to go back up. For me, and based on my charts and what I typically see, I would at least look at the hourly 50. Now, the hourly 50 is going to move. I was on a call with a bunch of our trader friends, our coworkers, and I was like, "Now, hey, just be careful. That moving average is going to be in a different place in a few days from now." And Jack was like, "Oh, is that why they call it a moving average? Because it moves?" I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. So, since that is fresh in my mind, just remember. So we have the hourly 50 right there. Let's call it 111. Over a couple days, it might come out to be 114. I don't know. So that's why I just referenced the moving average and not necessarily a price. But I would expect over the course of the next few days, price to get down to wherever the hourly 50 is. Now, it might go further, but that's where I would first start looking for support. And I would be careful and caution you that just because price reaches the hourly 50 does not mean that it's necessarily a good place to buy. It can keep going lower. Okay. I'm just saying that that's probably where it's going to go. And then from there, we're going to have to use the lower time frames and everything else that I teach to see if price is going to keep going down, which it definitely could. We just don't know yet. And so don't just buy long because price is at the hourly 50. You got to wait and look for confirmation. And then let's see, Microsoft. Yeah, I keep viewing Microsoft as a bounce up too. It's just a different formation of what's going on with the market. I mean, it's up here at the arch of the foot. There's a gap between price and the hourly 50. And to me, it just seems like this is a bounce up here, and then we're going to start moving over again like that. So that's really my contention. I think we're going to be seeing some lower stuff, and I think price generally is going to be running into the hourly 200 as resistance. Yeah, I think it's just this is a bounce in a downtrend. I think this is a reversion to the mean before things start rolling over. I don't really see strength. I don't really want to be long on much of anything in this market. Yeah, Andrew. So, oh, you caught the long overnight. It's so. Look, sometimes numbers don't matter. The market. There's the overall direction of what the market's doing and the strength of the market and wherever it is at the time. They reported good numbers. Fine. So AMD stock is up. Okay. But you have to look at the patterns. This is just a bounce so far. What I look for is a pullback into support that then is confirmed in order to then have price start moving back up. This is only a bounce, and we haven't come down to test the moving average yet. And that's why you're seeing it come down, and it could keep going down. Look at PayPal, keeps going down. So the other point is, so Andrew, yeah, again, doesn't matter that the earnings per share beat was massive. That's just news. Okay, that's just news. But you need to look at the chart. If the chart is not ready to keep going up, then it was just a spurt of news, and then it's going to do whatever it wants to do. So you need to be familiar with how to read charts. It sounds like you're not part of the Moxie group. So may I implore you that if you want to learn some of these things that I talk about, and so that, because I had one subscriber actually just before I came on here, he and I were chatting in the chat box, and he's like, man, I've been at this for 40 years and I've never seen it as clear as you explain it. And I said, oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. He's like, yeah, you've actually given me a lot of context and a lot of understanding about how to expect where these things are going to go. And so that he doesn't get messed up on something like this. So based on my chart patterns, I could predict, basically, I could tell that generally speaking, that was going to get sold into. And, that's the stuff that I teach. I have it all written down. I have a glossary and I have the rules so that what you guys would be able to see that is not a good place to enter for the long side. You got to let it come down and let the rest of the rules follow in order to then get it figured out. Espo, Doomster. Hey, I'm not doom and gloom, but I'm just happy if it's going to go down because that's the side I'm on. So I just want the market to do something. And I don't think it's going to keep going up for now. All right. Amazon has earnings, so anything goes out the window. I really can't say much about this. If I were to just talk about it technically, I think this is the bounce. I think we're going to have to come back down here. And then the question is it going to go higher? Is it going to go lower? But we have earnings. Earnings can do anything. Just like we saw with Google, news trumps charts. And we could see with Google that we had a 20-to-1 stock split. And of course, that's going to just send it flying, despite anything that the charts say. Well, my barber uses Square. He knows Square because he uses it for his company. He thinks it's a good company, and he's been buying it because it's cheap, because it's on sale. And I know the last time I was there, he was buying it there. He said he's adding to it. And you know what? From where he purchased it, let me get my tool. From where he told me he was adding more, he is now down 45%. So basically, the money he threw into it, he now lost half of it. And we don't know if Square is going to come back, or if it does, we don't know how long it's going to take. So I get you. AMD is a good company, but you know what? Right now, that doesn't necessarily matter. The market is under pressure. Things are correcting, and we don't know how much further it's going to correct. AMD, maybe it never goes below $100 again. Maybe not, but maybe it does. What if it goes down to 80 before it goes back up? How's that going to make you feel? So AMD is not an uptrend right now. AMD is still correcting. AMD is not over moving averages like the daily 50. All right. And while AMD is over the hourly 50, it has not actually tested it for confirmation. It's only above it. It's not trending with it. So good company or not, you're trading the stock. Okay. There might be fundamentals behind it, but you're trading the stock. All right. So those are some of the things I've been seeing. And let's see, XOP as far as oil, still trying to see. I know we got some traders out there who are obviously very bullish oil. Seems to make sense. But we're going to have to see if XOP can actually start breaking out. So I'd be watching for that if it's going to happen, and see if it can continue to be a defensive sector. And then what was the other one that I was looking at? So Xlf Financials, they still continue to be basically choppy, not doing too much. Ultimately, I would be concerned that they too could go down a little bit if this market doesn't shape up. And so the reason I'm saying that is because just recently here on Xlf Financials on the daily chart, we saw an inverse trampoline move. So price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. We could see that back here, and there just really hasn't been a good trend yet. So I'm seeing two situations recently where price is over the 50, but the Moxie indicator is still below 0, has me a little bit concerned. For at the time, until the news came out, Google was doing an inverse trampoline move too, which was what initiated the move down. Right in through here, you could see that price was over the 50, but the Moxie indicator was below 0. We're still in that condition. So that's why I'm just not interested in buying this right now. It's a pretty big gap up. It's at previous all-time highs. I'm just not sure that this is the best place to go buy it. I think that there will be another opportunity to find this at a well, maybe or maybe not a lower price, but a more robust price according to the moving averages and indicators. mRNA, yeah, I don't see anything going on here. I don't know if you're trying to go long or short. If you're trying to go long, I wouldn't yet. There's nothing here that tells me that this thing is ready to go long. And if you're trying to go short, yeah, maybe. If you're trying to go short, just realize that you are running right into a previous area of price consolidation. So it's going to act as some kind of temporary support. Now, again, whether you're going long or short, price may not necessarily bounce because of that. It could go sideways. And same thing, if you're trying to short, it doesn't necessarily have to keep going down. It could go sideways until it goes down. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. You do have earnings coming up, so earnings can always be a crapshoot. But these names, they might keep going down. Like clearly, mRNA is in a downtrend, and other than bounces in a downtrend, it is not confirmed to the upside. So do be careful out there, and realize what you guys are in. And if it's not working out, just get out. You don't need to be in all these names if they're just not working out. So that's what I have to say. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more action next week, since I think the market is topping out on this bounce. But yeah, come check out. We got the webinar that I did. We have the recording up, and so if you guys want to check out that link, it should be great. We have it posted in the chat box here. And other than that, Teresa, Imran, Ghassan, we'll see you next week. Thanks again.